Hey guys, this is the story of Don Fury Studio. Hope you like it. This is a really cool photograph of Surf Avenue in Coney Island from about the 1930s. If you look in the middle of the picture, you'll see this building with the words Jack's Game on it. That building is 1220 Surf Avenue, and that's where my third studio, Cyclone Sound, would run for 8 years. So let's go on a tour, and I'll tell you some of the history of Cyclone Sound. When I first saw the building at the Mermaid Parade, it was home to a Russian art dealer and a Greasy Spoon restaurant. There was a for rent sign in the third floor window, and I didn't go in to check it out during the parade, but I couldn't get it out of my mind, and I went back about a week later to meet the owner of the building, Alex Gerson. He was the art dealer. Here's a pretty cool photo of Alex. He's a pretty burly guy. He's over on the right-hand side of that window looking out of his gallery. The Herman Popper building was originally a beer brewery. So I took a lease starting on September 1 of 2000, and Alex was nice enough to let me come in at the end of July and start working on the space. But before we get into that, or the history of the studio, I think I've got to show you around the neighborhood and show you just how amazing this space was and the neighborhood. Here's some photos from the studio windows and from the roof, and I had the roof all to myself. It'll give you an idea of just how amazing this place was. First of all, that's the Atlantic Ocean out there, which is amazing enough. But right in front of it is the Cyclone wooden roller coaster. The whole amusement park is stretching out in back of the studio. That's the Astro Tower as well. And that's the Wonder Wheel, stripped down for the winter. That's the parachute jump, and you can see on the right the lights for the Brooklyn Cyclones baseball club. The Jumbo Jet roller coaster was right out my back window. I mean, all summer it was nuts. If you look over on the bottom left, you can see Eldorado Arcade and Auto Scooter, which was a bumper car establishment right next door to my building. That place was rocking all summer. The Coney Island Sideshow was right on the corner. And every once in a while, the cast would come up to my roof, and we'd break night. Those guys could party hard. And the city built a brand new train station right across the street from the studio and next to the Shore Hotel. There were 4 elevated subways, and you could watch them come in all day long, and at night you could actually wave to them through the studio windows. It was the most amazing location in New York City you could possibly imagine. So in August of 2000, I started building the studio with some help from my son Mick, getting the floors and all the other materials in. We took out a window and had deliveries of hundreds of pieces of sheetrock and plywood and studs. And when it was all done, it was absolutely beautiful. Here's a few photos of the studio. It was a fantastic place to play, great sound. And here's a few photographs of the control room. Lots of room. I built a huge speaker closet and rolled it into a floored-over elevator shaft. And a couple years later, I built a sauna, which doubled as an extra speaker closet. Brooklyn cabaret punk rockers, World Inferno Friendship Society, came in and did 2 fantastic LPs at Cyclone Sound. Rose Callahan photographed one of those sessions. The 2 projects I did for World Inferno Friendship Society, Red-Eyed Soul and Addicted to Bad Ideas, are 2 of my favorites all time. I mean, these were big band recordings, very different from my hardcore past. We had, horns, strings, percussion, punk rock guitar, harmony vocals, accordions, keyboards, you name it, the kitchen sink. They were the funnest records ever to make. Cyclone Sound ran from 2000 to 2008, and I got to work with lots of great bands on lots of great records. To name just a few of the bands, Crash and Burn, Brick by Brick, Eyes of Hate, Outbreak, MDC, This Year's Model, Hiretsukan, Endangered Feces, Charles Campo, Bayside, Mental, Ex-Lover, Locked in a Vacancy, The Spunks, State of Disgrace, Caught in a Trap, Franz Nicolai, Black 47, Rantan Plan, Thought Crime, and Bold, and that's just to name some of them. By 2006, Coney Island was in trouble. A developer, Thor Equities, and its owner, Joe Sitt, had decided he was going to buy up all the amusements in Coney Island. I knew by that time either I wasn't going to be able to afford to stay or I would just get kicked out. And so I began a year-long search for a new home for the studio. By 2007, things were getting desperate in Coney Island. They had bulldozed all the amusements all around my building, and I was literally sitting in the middle of a wasteland that used to be the amusement park. I looked far and wide for a building that might be good for the studio for the future, and finally came across a 10,000 square foot loft building in Troy, New York. It checked all the boxes, and I knew it was going to be the future home of Don Fury's studio.